You know that feeling when you're in a museum standing in front of some incredible ancient artifact and you feel this weird mix of total awe and, I don't know, a little bit of unease? Well, that feeling, it points to a huge and very modern challenge. Our shared cultural heritage, the art, the stories, the stuff that makes us who we are, it's fueling massive global industries. But at the very same time, it has never, ever been more at risk. So today we're going to dig into a really revolutionary idea that's aiming to fix that. All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll get into something called the heritage paradox. Then, we'll look at why the current system trying to protect it is, well, basically built on sand. After that, we get to the good part, the solution, a game-changing concept called civilization rights. We'll talk about the organization designed to protect these rights, and then we'll wrap up by looking at what this all means for building a future that's genuinely authentic. Okay, let's dive right into the heart of the matter. We are living in a massive paradox. On one hand, you've got this incredible global hunger for authentic cultural stories and designs, and it's powering multi-trillion-dollar industries, everything from fashion to Hollywood. But on the other hand, the very digital magic that makes culture so easy to share also makes it unbelievably easy to just take, misuse, and profit from. This quote, it just hits the nail on the head. That feeling of cognitive dissonance. You're standing there, looking at this absolute masterpiece of human creation, right? But deep down, you're also thinking, wait, this is thousands of miles from Egypt, where it belongs. And that physical gap, it represents a much bigger, much more complicated story about history and power, and who gets to claim ownership of the past. And this right here shows you just how big that paradox is today. Look at this. On the left, you've got this immense value. The entire aesthetic of a civilization can become the uncredited inspiration for a new virtual world, a metaverse. But on the right, you see the crazy risk. A sacred pattern, something that took centuries of tradition to develop, can be scanned, uploaded, and slopped onto a cheap t-shirt in a matter of hours. The value is through the roof, but the protection is basically zero. So you have to ask, why is this happening? How is this possible? It's happening because we are trying to solve a 21st century problem with 20th century rules. The legal foundation we're all standing on, it's like a house built on sand. It just was not designed to handle the pressures of today. And you can see how we got here on this timeline. It starts with what you could call the age of extraction, colonial powers literally just taking stuff. Then in 1970, we get the age of codification, where organizations like UNESCO tried to write rules to stop future looting. But now we're in the age of digital disruption, where AI and the metaverse are creating brand new ways of extracting cultural value, and they're moving at a speed that leaves those old laws completely in the dust. Which leads us to the big question here. What exactly is wrong with the laws we have right now? Where are they actually failing us? Let's really get into the specifics. The problems are, well, they're fundamental. First off, these laws are not retroactive. Basically, the 1970 UNESCO Convention gives a free pass to everything that was taken before then. Second, they're state-centric. They only think in terms of modern countries, which totally fails indigenous communities whose lands and heritage cross those borders. Third, the whole conversation is about crime, not justice. It misses the huge ethical problem of so-called agreements that were made under force. And maybe the biggest one of all, it's a total mismatch with IP law. Intellectual property is for one person's invention for a limited time. Heritage is the exact opposite. It's collective, and it's supposed to last forever. You can't protect it with the wrong tool. So, if the old system is fundamentally broken, what's the answer? It's not about just patching up the old rules, it's about a complete revolution in how we think, a fundamental shift away from arguing over who owns a piece of the past to recognizing that a people have an inherent right to their own story. This is the big conceptual leap we have to make. Think about it like this. It's similar to other moral revolutions in history, like the abolition of slavery. That wasn't just a tweak to property law. It was a profound shift to say that human beings have rights and cannot be property. We need that same level of thinking for heritage. It's not a thing you can own or sell. It is literally part of a people's identity. And that brings us to the core concept, civilizational rights. The definition here is everything. They're inalienable, can't be sold or taken away. They're collective, they belong to a whole people, not just one person. And they're intergenerational, meaning they connect the past, the present, and the future. This table just lays it all out, crystal clear. Look at the two columns.
On the left, that's our old system, property and IP law. The holder is an individual. The duration is limited, and its nature is transactional. You can sell it. Now look at the right, civilization rights. The holder is the collective, the people. The duration is perpetual, and its nature is inalienable. It's part of who you are. This one shift from the left column to the right basically solves all the problems we've been talking about.
But look, a powerful idea is just that, an idea. To make something like civilization rights real, you need more. You need a new kind of organization, a steward that can actually champion this new framework and develop the science to make it work. And that's where the Civilization Rights Institute, or CRI, comes in. Its entire purpose is to be an impartial, non-governmental steward for these rights. And that's so important because it means the work stays grounded in science and ethics, not short-term political wins.
So what does the CRI actually do? Its mission really breaks down into three key parts. First, steward the Declaration, which means upholding the Universal Declaration of Civilization Rights as a global standard. Second, provide scientific tools. This is where it gets really practical. They're developing things like a civilization rating system, the CRS, to objectively measure the ethical and authentic use of culture. And third, foster global action, which is all about building a massive coalition of partners, from tech companies to governments to communities, to actually make this change happen.
So where does all of this lead us? What's the ultimate goal here? It's about building something called the authenticity economy. Just imagine a world, a global economy, where treating culture with respect isn't just a legal hassle to avoid, but is actually seen as the single greatest source of new, sustainable value. And let's be clear, this isn't about putting up fences or stopping creativity. It's the opposite. It is, as the quote says, an invitation. It's calling on leaders in every industry to stop being accidental appropriators and start being real pioneers, to become true partners with cultures. That's where you unlock a whole new universe of creativity and value. And this is where it all comes full circle. This framework gives us real answers to those tricky modern problems. Remember the secret pattern on the t-shirt, or the digital version of an artifact, or how culture gets used in the metaverse? Civilization Rights gives us the playbook to handle all of that, making sure that respect and consent are baked in from the start. So the bottom line is, this really is a win-win for everyone. For businesses, it actually reduces risk and turns something that used to be a problem into a huge competitive advantage. For communities, it protects their most precious asset and makes sure they benefit from sharing it. And for all of us, it helps build a future that is way more just, more creative, and frankly, a lot more interesting. Which leaves us with one last big question to think about. In a world that is screaming for authenticity, for purpose, for meaning, maybe justice isn't just the right thing to do. Maybe, just maybe, it's the ultimate competitive advantage.